Hello, testing. Looks good. Mic reading. Hello, chatters. Hello, Mr. Freakin' Curry. Let me switch this over. Nice. Looks like everything's looking good, reading good. As you can see, we are back in our regular spot, not in an airbrushing booth, because today we will be fixing and correcting lots of holes. Oh, hi, Mr. Creaky. Five months. Wow, thank you so much. Time flying for real, especially like concerning garage kits. But actually, this is pretty good. I get one of these done about every 3 months, so you'll be seeing the second one. Thank you so much. That really means a lot. And yeah, more Kermies too. If anything, subscribe for Kermies, right? Well, anyway, so hope everybody had a good weekend. Thank you for coming on this Tuesday instead of Monday. Yesterday was my husband's birthday, so just decided to go out, and we were out pretty late. So in any case, today is the day we'll be doing this, and I think it'll be a back-to-back since we'll be doing it today and then tomorrow. I had to think for a second. So yeah, we'll be doing it today and fixing stuff, and then yeah, I don't think we'll get through all of this today. So tomorrow we'll probably be able to do a lot of the other stuff like pinning these hairs together, etc. So yeah, for what we're gonna do today, we've got all of these pieces primed, and so our goal will be to look at the pieces and, you know, figure out what we missed, any holes that popped up that we missed, which there are many because this kit did have a lot of, you know, bubbles and pinholes. And we'll be filling them in. I've got 2 putties here. We're gonna mostly be using the light curing putty and the UV gel clear R. This is the clear resin stuff, just because these dry quicker, and I don't want to, like, I'm gonna be using a drill bit for this, and so I don't want to have to be like bondoing and waiting and getting everything red again, especially because when we thin down that bondo with lacquer, this primer is also put on with lacquer, and so if I start wiping stuff, it's gonna wipe off all of the primer, and it's just kind of a mess. So after I primer, I tend to just use these 2 products because they work pretty well and they have a quick drying time, so we can just like move on and do stuff. So we're just kind of gonna go piece by piece. I haven't actually given each of these a inspection yet, so like a really thorough inspection. I did do a little bit on some of them and started drilling some holes, but other than that, we don't have too much that I've done. So what I'll be basically doing is just kind of looking at them up close and then probably tackling it bit by bit, working on to the next piece. So got a lot to do. I'm just kind of gonna jump into it today. So lots of minor puttying, some minor sanding. We'll be using higher grits for this, so I'm going to be using mostly 800 and 1200 grit sandpaper because at this stage we don't want to be scratching the kit. We just want to be buffing it out and, you know, filling in those holes and letting them sit. So just kind of going to go for it, honestly. As always, if you have any questions at all, just pop them in and I will read them. Lots of time to read today since I won't be airbrushing anything. Right now I'm just going to use this light curing putty. Yeah, we did do a pretty good job on filling in all of the issues the first time around, but I'm not very surprised that there's a lot of stuff that we did miss and need to fill in, because this kit did have quite a bit of bubbling and issues. But it makes for longer streams, so that's always good. Alright. So I'll just be holding stuff up here and there in the meantime. Don't have 4 arms, so unfortunately I don't have another piece I can just start working on. A little bit more. Pretty good. So sanding with this 800 is going to take off some of this primer. Actually, let me see if I can get a glove on so I don't have to be touching this piece. We'll see how well this goes, because this glove is a little loose, but I don't want to be touching the primer too much either. Well, that's a pretty dirty glove. We'll see. Hopefully it doesn't rub off. I don't want to be touching the primer too much because the oils from your hands will get on the primer, and just not really a good time. So at this stage I typically try to use gloves, but all I have are these bigger ones right now, which as you can see are kind of dirty. I've been using them for airbrushing and cleaning out stuff, so. So I'm just gonna sand down this with the 800 first and then kind of go over it with the 1200. And also have, where did it go? Cloth one. So cloth one will be pretty handy too. Covers a larger area, but smooth stuff down a little bit more. Thankfully, the second round always goes quicker than the first round, just because we've already caught most of it and sanded all those seam lines down, etc. So if any seam lines do remain, typically they're just tiny bits, tiny little like things that look like scratches, and those are pretty easy to sand. And that light carrying putty works very well with this kind of beige yellow resin, so really not concerned about it showing up once we prime again. And because this primer layer was so thin to begin with, don't really have to worry too much about there being uneven levels once we go with the second primer. I think that this glove is kind of getting residue on the primer though, like it looks kind of dirty. So I think I might switch this glove out. You can also just buff the primer out at this stage as well if you want that smooth finish. The primer ideally would have gone on pretty smoothly already, but sometimes you get little dusties or flakes depending on how your primer was thin. And so smoothing it out with a high grit sandpaper at this stage is really helpful. Then you can get that smooth anime finish. I think that's a pretty typical problem with a lot of garage kits, is there being texture. A lot of people don't want texture on their kits, they just want it super smooth. And when you're airbrushing, it's a lot easier to get that, you know, to be super smooth, but if your surface is not that way, your airbrushing over is still not going to help the texture. Like gloss top coats will help, but the best way to go about it is to not have anything in the first place. Alright, this piece already looks pretty good. There were only a couple issues on this one that I saw, And there is still some minor scratching and little things going on with this one. I'm not sure if it's even visible on the camera, but there's a little bit of scratching here, some slight like dent work here. But I'm not really going to worry about that too much because at some point that's just how the kit is cast. And there are a lot of random assorted scratches on this kit, like especially back here. I'm pretty sure I didn't do any of that, but these look like texture marks from the sculptor. So, and we're not really even going to see that, so no problem there. Let's see, am I right in thinking you use leveling thinner too? Yes, yeah, leveling thinner will help a lot, especially in smoothing out that primer coat. I use Mr. Color leveling thinner, and so the properties in this basically mean that as it's drying, it will smooth everything out, and it takes slightly longer to dry because of that. And so usually, you know, when you're spraying on, it just kind of dries on the surface. The leveling thinner takes a little bit longer. And so you may have seen when we were airbrushing last time that my, you know, top coat kind of looked pretty wet and slick. That would be the result of the leveling thinner and it taking a little bit longer to dry. But I've only recently started using Mr. Color leveling thinner. Before I really haven't used it that much, but it highly depends on the area that you're in, the climate that you're in. You know, it can be beneficial to have a leveling thinner and have a slowing agent if you're in an area that has pretty low humidity. Otherwise, you're just going to be, your paint will be hitting the surface and drying instantly, and that can also, you know, texture can also happen that way as well. So there's many factors that go into airbrushing and like things that can go wrong and you getting textures on, you know, your coats. And so always good to kind of try to isolate the problem. I'm gonna grab some alligator clips real quick so I can just start putting these pieces back up after I'm done with them. Should be right here. Don't want to hit my camera. Whoops, drop one on my laptop. Okay, so let's put them on the side here for now. And let me go grab my other glove and see if it's a little bit cleaner. Alright, this one looks a little bit better. So I used this glove before, so we'll go back to this one for the rest of the kits and see if that helps. So, my nice purple one now. Anyway, yeah, on the topic of just like airbrushing and, you know, trying to get a smooth surface, there's many things that can happen, you know, to not get a smooth surface. And a lot of it's just prevention and trying to make sure that your coat is smooth before you move on to paint. Alright, kind of picking and choosing at random here. I've got all the pieces up here. Let's do these ones next. These were the small scrunchy pieces. And I just put that glove on, but this piece is so small that it's going to be a pain to hold it. So I'm just going to hold it with my hand. So I pre-drilled out a couple of other minor holes that I saw on this kit, or on this piece. And I guess the kit. We did a pretty good job on this one too, but there were still just like a couple of really small ones, so. The ones that did have a lot of issues were the hands and her pants. Those were the two pieces, or the two sets that were the worst, from the beginning. And so that doesn't surprise me, but they had a lot of issues after we primed too. Really don't need a lot at all on this, so you can see why one small tube goes a really long way when you're just dealing with tiny holes like this. If you have a bigger kit, obviously you're gonna go through stuff a little bit quicker, so. Alright, gonna hold this piece up to the light, and while I do that, let me take a look at this one. Some of this can just be sanded down too. Not really a bubble, but just like a slight scratch. I don't really see any bubbles on this one. There's just one thing I'm not sure if it's a hair or a line that I need to sand, so this piece looks pretty good. This one's almost ready for painting. Oh yeah, that's the area right there, so I'm gonna have to drill that out. We'll come back to that. These need a little longer. And let's take a look at this one too while I hold this piece up. This is her front hair piece, which shouldn't have many bubbles at all. There's a little bit of scratching that I'll need to buff out, but I don't think we'll need to use any putty to fill in this hair. Maybe right there. There's one spot that I'm not sure about. Okay. Let's see. Oh, we'll give this a try. Start sanding these down. Some of these too are just remnants of holes that I had already puttied, so it just didn't get it all the way. Really tiny micro bubbles. It seems to happen to me a lot. I'm not super great at filling things in the first time. Tend to always have to do a second pass. Oops. Kind of hard to hold this piece with the glove. Move this, that way you guys can see it. I'm not too worried about over sanding this piece in either because it's kind of angular. Still not sure how this is her hair and not a scrunchie or some sort of hair tie, but whatever. Okay, let me grab this. And you may notice I'm just keeping this wire in here because we already kind of glued it or did something with it, and we'll be using it again shortly anyway to prime. I also am proud to announce that I think I fixed my spoon problem. So rather than washing them and doing whatever the heck we were going to do to clean all of the grease or whatever was left on them, I found that if I just rubbed them with a melamine sponge, similar to how I, do stuff anyway on kits, it takes all of that off super quick. So before I spray a spoon, I just kind of wipe it with the sponge, and that tends to take off the junk, and so then I'm able to get a nice smooth spoon. So we'll be doing that pretty soon as well, because we'll need to start testing colors for this kit soon. That will make it a lot easier. Really, I was putting paint on and it just wasn't sticking. It was flaking off or bunching up, and really just goes to show, how you need a clean surface. Because that kind of stuff would happen with kits too, if it has that mold release on it. Okay. Maybe one more. Yep, right here. Hello, yes, I am here. How are you doing tonight? We are just sanded down this primer in areas that we missed. So should have spoon emotes. Oh my gosh. You know, that is a pretty good idea. And that's something I could probably make on my own too. I will consider that suggestion. I know that Twitch changed something about emotes, but I haven't really looked into it. I'm not sure if they like raised the cap or something about animated, but that's all I paid attention to. Sleepy. Yeah, I was gonna put like a cute face or something on him, like cute anime eyes, something spoony. Blushing spoon, right? Oh my god. Now that I like say it out loud, I kind of want it to become reality. I'll consider it. But I like those Kermies too. So if the choice is Kermies or spoon, then I'm not sure. That'll be tough. But spoon is more relevant. Kermies is just like me liking the emote, so. When you get more subs, you get more emotes. Tsundere spoon, oh god. Well, sadly, this is a small channel, guys, so there will probably not be more than the current amount of emotes. It's like the cap is pretty high, I think. Okay. This one's pretty good. I've sanded down most of this to a point where it's bare resin. This one here looks like I could sand this down a little bit more. Yeah, it just didn't seem even. Yeah, this piece not so much worried about since it's gonna be kind of at an angle where we won't really see it too much, but personally when I see like little bubbles, that's what bothers me the most. Like tiny scratches, sometimes I'm just like, well, that's fine, but when I see bubbles, that really bothers me because it casts a shadow once you have your paint on, so it's a lot easier just to fill them in and not worry about it later. Worst thing is when you have your like paint job and you think you're good and you have your primer on and then you go and you paint and you just see like the shadow of a bubble and you're like, how did that happen? How did I miss that? That's the worst feeling. There are ways to basically do what we're doing right now though. Even when you have paint on the kit, you have thin enough layers, you can mask that stuff pretty well. Okay. Put this up here. This one is pretty much good for now from what I can tell. Always subject to change once we have the primer, second coat of primer on it. Now this one, there was only like one area that I saw that kind of bothered me. Still kind of a seam line here. So let's see, where was it? Can't seem to find it now. Oh, there it is. Oh, I dropped that. Alright, so we're just gonna make a tiny hole here. Oops. Oh, yep. You feel the hole, then sometimes your drill bit just slides right into that. So I am using my smallest drill bit size. Well, smallest I typically work with right now. So this is the 0.5 millimeter. And I could go smaller, but I found that some of these pieces have little micro holes next to the larger holes, and so by drilling a larger hole, you're able to get those other baby ones too. All right. Just got this one spot, I think, on this one, and that was the only issue. And then we'll move on to this piece, which again, I think just needs some minor sanding. From here on out though, some of these pieces are a little bit rougher, so I'm not sure where to start. Probably the torso. Let's see. Torso's not too bad actually. Did a pretty good job on the torso, so maybe I'll do that one after the hair. Yeah, just some really minor stuff and only one or two bubbles, so. Okay. a little longer. That should be good. Hello, Rebel Star. How are you? I am doing well. Kermie Spoon emote. Yeah, we're talking about potential new emotes, which I would have to replace a Kermit, but it almost seems worth it if it could be Kermit with a spoon or just a spoon. Smiling spoon. My brand is not spoons, but you know, if you're a modeler, then you're into spoons. No, sorry if it's not focusing, guys. Like, I set this stuff down and then I don't even look at the camera and realize if it's focused or not. Pretty good. That piece is a little bit rough. Sometimes, if you've got a primer layer too, if you use a high enough grit, you can basically use the primer as a filler and it will kind of push itself into those holes and smooth everything out. So another benefit of using these high grits to sand. Sometimes, just depends how small the hole is. There's a little bit of weirdness happening here, but I don't think I'm gonna mess with that too much. All right, so that one's pretty good. Let's put that up. The only thing we had to fix on this piece is a bubble right here. So you can kind of see the yellow, maybe. Very, very faint, but there's a yellow dot there from the light curing primer. All right, we're just gonna smooth this out real quick. Not even gonna use the 800 on this, just gonna use 1200. Some of that's just those fuzzies I was telling you about because it's a little bit rough on this piece, so the primer just kind of caught it. Oh yeah, little dent there, but that's so small I could really only see it under the right angle. Not gonna worry about that. And a little bit of a scratch here. Let me actually get that 800 and buff that out. That's a remnant of a seam line. So like I was saying, most of the time when you see little lines at this stage, it's because it's a seam line portion that you missed. Unless you like accidentally hit it with your X-Acto knife or something, which also does happen. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm gonna move this section out a little more. A little bit of roughness on this hair strand. Just unevenness really, so. Not needing to do too much. And a little bit of a bump here. So small. This piece, I don't even know where the backing went. I think it flew off at one point. Okay. Smooth all of that down. A little bit of texture. Basically took the primer off, but that's fine. Okay. That piece is pretty good for now. I'm just gonna set it on the corner of my spray station that doesn't have a pin right now. Alright, the rest of these are a little bit rougher. Let's do that torso first. That's what I said I'd do. And I'd really not have any bubbles anywhere except for maybe along the sides. And there was a seam line running in here. Some leftover putty. So, 2-part putty somehow. Oh yeah, probably when we were correcting that gap, a little bit got left on here. And the other side too. Really not holes or anything, just leftover roughness, texture. And this is really going to be skin tone, so we want to make sure that this is smooth. Kit doesn't have a lot of skin to paint, so that's, you know, always a good thing. Just this torso here with her little tummy, and then her arms and her head, and I think that's it. So probably we'll be able to use some leftover clear paint that I have as well, kind of like what we did with the maid kit. Use some stuff that I mixed before. There is a little bit of what looks like a hole here. I'm gonna see if I can buff it out. Seems like it did, so smooth it out again, and we'll use the cloth on this. Cover a wider area, make sure everything's super smooth here. Get that primer thin, like sanded down, so when we spray it again, then it'll go on nice and smooth. Okay, this was a pretty thin layer anyway, so it's kind of like coming off. And there's a little bit of scratching here. Not sure if that was from me or not, but some of it's from the sculptor for sure. Kind of like what happened with the maid kit, every time we do this it'll take less time, so that goes for the priming as well. Since we're not sanding down all of the primer on this kit, only in certain areas, we'll be using less and less as we proceed farther in the prep, until eventually the whole thing is just completely coated. And then we're ready to paint. There's a little bit of a scratch here that I'm trying to get, and you can tell because when you sand it, the primer stays in the side of that scratch. So even when you sand it down the area, there will be like a little white spot, or gray or black, whatever you decide to prime, what color. Be a little better. Wide. Okay. You can start to see the color difference, right? So the white primer, and then that kind of yellow. It's a little easier to see back here. So like yellowy. That would be because the resin is pretty yellow, or, you know, beigey colored. If you had a white cast kit, it would be a little harder to tell the difference between the primer and your resin. Okay, there was one bubble here though, and that's the one that I noticed and wanted to get out. Oops, I scratched it a little. Oh, yeah, there we go. Like it was just a spot, yeah, pretty big bubble. So right here, you guys can see it right there. That one looks like it was just completely missed. Whoops. You can tell occasionally, like after you primer, because sometimes the areas look like a little bit raised or something looks off, it's not smooth. If you hit it with the drill bit, sometimes it just pops right in. You go, oh, guess that's a bubble I missed. There will probably be a couple of those on the legs. Really trying to put this only where I want it. Sanding this area is going to be a little bit annoying. We'll start there. I should be okay. Alright, put that up to the light. I think that was the only hole though, but we'll look around. See how the head did. The head especially, we want to make sure is nice and smooth. We did do a really good job of filling in all of those like lines. There was a pretty bad seam line that ran underneath her chin, kind of up to her ear, so along her neck to her ear. And I smoothed that out with light curing putty and Bondo, and you can barely even tell that there was a big line running through there now, so that one's pretty good. There's a few marks on the top of the head, excess bubbles. A little scratch under her neck, but I'm not gonna bother with that one. And the back here is textured because of the kit, but we're not gonna sand down each of these tendrils either, or like the hair area. Come back to that one. Okay. Let me grab my gloves for this. I feel a little bit off. I don't know why it wants to focus on everything but this kit. See if I can get it to focus, and then wow, what is going on here? There we go. Okay. What is it focusing on? Stuff. And because this is kind of at an angle, I folded the sandpaper over so we can sand it into the crevice here. Because we can't really sand it this way, like up and down, but we can sand along it. I think maybe it's focusing on this paint stain. But yeah, you want to be sanding along the plane, not against it. So it makes no sense to sand that way when the issue is inside of here. This kit has a pretty good parts breakdown though, all things considered. Like this is really, this and the head are the only things that need masking. So, and this one is super easy since you just kind of line along the top of her shirt. The head is a little bit more challenging since you have to deal with all of the zigzags of her head. So you can see her hairline here. We're gonna have to strategically place lots of little masking tapes to keep that from spraying onto it after we have the skin done. But other than that, yeah, it's just kind of like a spray and go situation, which that will be nice and easy. We can get that done pretty quickly. And only one face, which means less time compared to the maid kit. Maid kit had all those alternative parts and stuff, so this one's challenging in the bubbles department, but other than that, the painting should be a breeze. Alright, let me grab a little bit of X-Acto knife and cut off the extra light curing putty. Alright, that should cover that one. Let's do another look. Oh yeah, let me smooth it out first. Pretty good. Oh, not this song again. Okay. Time to switch. Much better. Okay. Yeah, this one looks pretty good. Otherwise, there's a little bit of roughness happening up here, which I guess I could sand down. But her head is so big, it's gonna cover most of this, so I'm not too pressed. A little bit of weirdness here too. Nice big chibi heads. Cover up all the mistakes. Okay, and down here as well, just a little bit of lingering extra putty roughness. Okay, we can test the arm too to make sure that it still fits well. This was the one. Yep. So yeah, fit is still pretty good on this. You can see like so. No visible gap here. There is that little bit, you can see there's kind of a gap here, but I'm not gonna bother with that one just because it's kind of whatever, and this is for me. And that piece was kind of annoying. It'll cast a nice shadow once we have that in there, so. Let's see, check this. Yep, that one looks good. So I think that pretty much sums up this piece. Looked pretty smooth here, but just need a thicker coat of primer to cover up that red Bondo. Alright, yeah, let's put this piece up. And now move on to the real problem ones. So all the rest of these, well, minus her head, kind of had any excess bubbles, texture, scratches, etc. So we're just going to try to fix all of those one by one. Let's just start with the hair and give each of these, or one by one hair, a visual inspection. After we get the hair all smoothed out, that's when we'll glue the pieces together and do the two-part putty over them. This piece is pretty good, honestly. There's a little bit of an extra seam line or something here, just a ridge. Oh yeah, looks like perhaps I used light curing putty or clear putty, but it didn't sand down all of it, and so you can see the shadow cast by that. Not too big of a deal though, that one's a really easy fix. My humidifier going. Or dehumidifier, I should say. Minor texture on here. That's already smoothed out. Okay. Yeah, this piece is pretty nice, so let's see. Definitely not as many bubbles as I thought on this one. That looks like a Bondo scratch that was filled in. The inside here is pretty well taken care of as well. So this one had some Bondo that filled in scratches that I can see, but it looks pretty smooth to me, and so I'm not really going to bother with it. Once we put on that thicker coat of primer, that will take care of it. Some minor ridging happening there. Yeah, a little bit here, so. No holes to fill in though, so that's good. There we go. It's nice and smooth. Okay, so that's pretty good. We'll set this piece up for now. Okay, and let's move on to this one. This one a little bit rougher. There's a hole to fill in right here, so that looks like a spot that Bondo missed or didn't fill in. Try to get a little bit into this more. Ow. Well, scratched it, dang. Kind of a weird angle. There we go. Something interesting here, which I did notice before. It almost looks like this piece is kind of almost cracked, which is not a good thing. That could be problematic. I'm not sure how that happened, but I did notice it during the prep. First prep sanding. Basically, there's just kind of a line here. It's easily smoothed out, so maybe it's no big deal. Not sure about that one. Oh, a little bit of something here. I'm just not holding this right. Okay. There. Try not to hold that in the air, because then if you're not steady, you risk scratching it. Okay. Get some of that dust out. And inside is a little bit rough. Let me should have my alligator clip. Oh, there it is. Yep. Just a little bit higher than before. So I'm gonna have to kind of sand on the inside of this hair piece with probably not this one. 1200. This one's pretty used too, though, so let's see. This isn't really doing much. It's just kind of buffing out the inside of that primer, or the inside of the hair, and taking a little bit of the primer off, but just making sure everything's smooth. Saw a couple fuzzies. Okay. Yeah, that's better. So he's sanding off. Right here was the big area. Yep. Definitely a few remnants of that seam line. We'll come back to that. For now, let's fill in these holes. Only 2 that I drilled out so far, so it's easy enough. We got one, and where was the other one? I don't remember. Up right there. Okay. On the other side. A little bit much. And it kind of flaked off already. Okay, that up to the light for a little bit. Move some of this and maybe start looking at another one. This piece, I didn't look like I primed it fully. That or my primer got really thin because it's a little bit redder than the other pieces, and you can still see some of that Bondo. It's not covered up, so yeah. Couple holes to fill in on this one for sure. This piece was pretty bad too, I remember, so yeah, a lot of small Bondo holes and holes that didn't fill in all the way. This over, reading this piece. Yeah, also some minor scratching. There's a little bit of putty that didn't sand down all the way. Inside has a few dents. Yeah, a bubble there I missed. So these pieces will have a little bit more work. Okay. Oh yeah, scratch here too. Okay. Always good to give your stuff a second pass. Lots of stuff that I completely missed the first time around. Flaked off. Not sure if good or not. Let's try doing this one first. Not believe it's already almost August. That's kind of blowing my mind how quickly time is moving. I start school soon, and it's just like, what even happened? Like, COVID felt like I lost a whole year, and then now it's like, okay, time to start up again. And I'm just still shocked. It's been weird. Tiny bit of stuff to sand off here. But yeah, I'm very excited. Got getting stuff, trying to get emails, getting stuff together. Got my permit for parking, so it's happening. It's happening. Alright, that one's good. And let's go over here. You know what, I'm just gonna switch out this paper towel because it seems like it's doing more harm than good. Okay, and of course my paper towels are on the other side here, so just want to focus on that pink spot, so maybe this will help if I switch it to a not pink spot. To angle my chair the right way too so I don't hit my tripod. It's a very particular way I have to have this set up, otherwise it just doesn't work. Alright. Up a little bit more. And to like work like a gremlin as well, so just not good for your back. Okay, this one is gonna be a little bit more challenging. See if I can shave some of this off first. Tough. I don't think so. I think it's best to just attack it this way. Yep. Yeah, my sandpaper forms a little like U shape. That's typically the shape that I like when I'm working on these types of surfaces. Because that way you're not sanding just straight on a 2D. It's kind of like more of a raindrop shape. And you're able to cover more area that way, but you're not digging into the resin and creating a new line there. You're just buffing down. Do have to kind of move and rotate it because you can see this comes down a little bit, or a little bit comes off at a time. Let's see, time for bed. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, I hope you have a good one, Rebel. Thank you for tuning in. I know it gets pretty late over there. Yeah, we'll just be chilling here tonight, guys, but tomorrow we probably can get some of this done with a second layer of primer. Not the hair, because the hair is gonna be... Well, yeah, we'll have to prime the hair too, so never mind. But it shouldn't take the whole time. I know I said that last time too, but I got distracted because I made a mistake and drilled through a piece. We might be able to paint some spoons tomorrow. I'm not really sure yet. I'm not even remotely prepared for that. Need to figure out pull out paints and such. We'll see. Alright, that's pretty good. That's pretty sanded down at this point. Filling in that hole. So I'm just gonna buff this out. 1200 grit. And on this side too. Might be better to use this. So yeah, it's a little bit easier. At least we're getting some of that extra primer off. Okay. Remnant of a seam line here. Okay, this looks good. Got that scratch off. Okay, what's happening here? If I can sand that down. Looks like it could be potentially a hole. Nope, I don't know what that was. Maybe just a piece of dust or something. It's like a little black dot, but gone now, so. And a little bit of roughness here. Extra seam line stuff. Or just extra primer buildup. Okay. Light bit of roughness here. This looks like either primer buildup or excess putty. Yeah, I don't know what that was either. A little dot or something. Okay. Yeah, now I got this stuff in the middle. Let's see if sanding it down a little bit more will help. Really not too much to do here. There's like a very faint seam line that I can see. Bondo filled in some of it. I don't think there's too much more I can do there, so yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, yeah, I think this piece outside's good. Kind of turning it, making sure I can see every angle. A lot of those bubbles were on the exterior, kind of along the ridge here. But I don't see any more, so this one looks pretty good too. So we'll put this piece up as well. Making good progress on these easier ones at least. Move this. Okay. Alright, the rest of these hairs though, a little bit more challenging. So this one had some issues for sure. You can see my hands are starting to get kind of faintly primered because the more you touch this stuff, the more that it gets on your hands. So again, that's where a glove comes in handy. Keep forgetting to put it on though. I really like gloves that are kind of smaller and tighter and latex, not like these cleaning ones, and so I need to buy some new gloves, but I thought these would be tighter, but they're not. Wanted a nice pair of reusable ones, but oh well. Alright, so I'm gonna handle some of this roughness here first. And just kind of gonna attack whatever I see here that doesn't look right. This was a leftover bump from, looks like light curing putty. Does not have that yellow tint. That's pretty typical. That's one issue I have with the light curing putty is it looks like you sanded everything down because it dries completely clear and then you prime it and you're like, oh, never mind. It was a mound of resin here. But other than that, it's a really solid product. My minor complaint. Just dealing with not scratches, seam line remnants. Here as well. I need a new 1200 soon. Okay. Gonna fill in that right away and then keep moving. Piece a little bit dry. Pretty good. Let's see, check out some of these other ones. The hands I kind of want to leave for last just because they're a lot of holes to fill in on these ones. Just the casting was so bad on these pieces. It was really only on that one arm. This arm is not quite as bad, although there are a few holes to fill in still. And the pants, those are gonna take some time too. There was a bunch of tiny pinholes that came out when I primed that I didn't even see before. I thought we got pretty much everything, but nope, not the case. All right, put this glove back on. go. That one's all sanded down. Yeah, let me switch out my 1200. Binder grits get worn down pretty quickly. Okay, that's good. Here, not so good. A little hair here, not sure. There we go. Okay, smooth that down. Those were Bondo holes, but not sure how that will affect it later. Hole for sure right here. That looks like a bubble that was missed. That one. Oh yeah, bunch of stuff along here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is fill in this hole and then take a cloth sandpaper, probably 800 grit, and go over the plane of these. So kind of along the edge of the hair, there's a bunch of seam lines that were missed in a certain area. Don't kind of put too much putty on here. See if I can pull some of that off. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we'll get this all sanded first and then move on to the sanding down along the edge. I think after the hair, we'll move on to the head, and that one didn't have too much wrong with it. And then maybe the boots. Okay. Right, that looks good. Hold this again. Have to go back and forth with the glove here tonight. All right, shot another 800. Getting pretty full. Oops, that should be okay. Basically, whole flake of that light curing putty came off, but it wasn't actually in the hole, so that worked out just fine. You smooth it out. Yep, that's good. All right, so switch out this and pretty smooth. Let me see. This one's 800. So let me cut a little piece of this. Might not be able to grab it if it's this small though. We'll see. And grab my clip. Okay, so most of the issues were here. want some scratching. Oh yeah, definitely. There we go. That's nice and smooth. I really can't say how much of that was mine at this point. I did do a lot of sanding around this area though, so it's entirely possible that I accidentally scratched this while we were prepping it. Yeah, that 800 just completely takes off the primer. Oh yeah, a bunch here too. Yeah, a lot of little holes here that I'm seeing from the Bondo, so hoping that sanding them down will kind of put that putty into them, or the primer into it, and smooth it out for that second coat. I might have to fill some of those in again. This over here too was pretty rough. Get this to focus again better. I guess that's the problem with anime hair, is that a lot of times it's super smooth. There's not really many textures or lines running through it, so it's not like individual hair strands. So it's really noticeable if it has a scratch that's just like in the wrong kind of area, because it's very clear that it's not actually a hair strand or anything. It's just like something's wrong with the resin cast. So you're dealing with something highly textured, sometimes it's better not to deal with, you know, trying to fix these tiny scratches and stuff, because then you risk ruining the actual texture of the model. But for one like this, where it's just like a smooth anime twin tail, there's really, you know, we can continuously sand down this stuff. There's not really an issue with that. Inside here, I barely even looked at that, but it's pretty rough. I don't know how much there is I can do with that. This is basically like shave it with an X-Acto knife situation, but this is like the inner corner of the hair tip, so I might just not deal with that. A little bit of a, there we go. What I can also do is, where's that 800? I put it away, there we go. Lightly sand. Carve out a little bit, get smoother. Oh. Little bit of an extra bit of resin here. There we go. Okay, yeah, the inside of this hair strand is pretty rough, but it's really not that visible at all, so I'm not gonna bother with that. And let's here. Yep. Also take X-Acto knife here. Oh, that was a tiny bit of extra Bondo. Kind of caked on the side, so that's been removed. A little bit of a bump here. Let me drill that out. Visible enough that it bothers me. one should be pretty easy to smooth out as well. The tools of the trade tonight. Simply pieces of sandpaper and a drill bit and toothpick with putty. Music is like very calming tonight for some reason, so I feel like really sleepy. Like, no, gotta wake up. Got kids to work on. Got work to do tonight. So, right, let me hold this one. Alright, this one's pretty easy, just a flat plane, so it was just some sort of bump here. Not really sure why. You guys can see that yellow dot, right? It's the putty sanding. Heard something downstairs. Probably my cat, though. Taking a little bit of time. There we go. There we go. That's nice and smooth. Okay. Scratch here. Take off this. We're almost done with this piece, so oops. Where did it go? The thing, I keep dropping this. There we go. And that should conclude this piece. So we will be working on this again shortly because we have to glue the hair to it. So no worries on that. We can come back to this one. And I need more clips again. So let's grab my clips. See, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh. Should be good. All right, one more hair piece. That up. Okay, this is the last hair piece. Fortunately, the most complicated of the 4, both in terms of the number of tendrils and the issues with the cast. So Not really liking the look of this. There's a very clear scratch here that was filled in with Bondo. Not sure if it actually worked though. These little holes that also not sure if they filled in. Doesn't look like it. These might be able to be sandable. That one I don't like, so I'm gonna drill that hole out. Fortunately, these are kind of right along the edge here, so let's see. Hard to tell shiny, but there's a hole right there, a hole right there, just really all along the edge of the hair strand. Some micro bubbles here. This, I don't like this at all. Okay. Yeah, lots of pinholes that didn't get filled on all the way because they were a little bigger than I thought. Okay, we'll start with this side of the tendril then before moving on because there are a couple of holes here. Okay, start with that. Might need to fill in a bit more, but hold that up to the light. I have a feeling this piece was gonna be, whoops, kind of a pain. Mostly because it did have so many bubbles along the seam line. Making pretty good progress though, honestly. We've got about half the pieces done at this point, so considering, you know, how long it took us to prep all of them in the first place, it was quite a few hours. Doing all of that in an hour and a half is pretty good. Just the nature of kit building can be quite time consuming. Still though, in the scheme of things, it seems like, you know, we did this pretty quickly. It used to take me so much longer to build resin kits. As you gain that experience, you know, you figure out what techniques work for you. If you're, you know, painting all the same character all the time, then you would have like the same paint recipe you can use, and so stuff like that can speed up your build time as well. I used to only build maybe 1 or 2 kits a year, especially when I hand painted long ago. But I also have a lot more free time right now. That might quickly change once I go back to school. And then I will be building a lot less. I will try. And we'll have these streams until, you know, either something happens, it gets too busy, or I don't know yet. Kind of all depends on how intense school is, but in any case, I don't intend to stop building, just might not have quite as much free time to do it. Okay, let me switch the sandpaper out again. Okay, I had a whole bunch of them. I don't know where I cut them, where they went. Oh, maybe in here. No. There is some extra. Let me get some scissors. Okay. Alright, those are pretty good. Luckily, pretty easy to smooth these down because it's really like smooth one side and then smooth the other side. And it forms its own kind of triangle. You do want to be careful we're not altering the shape of the tendril too much though, so keep it nice and angular, smooth. It looks a little bit off. There we go. Oh yeah, I should be wearing my glove again. Little like long hairs popping up out of nowhere. Okay. Some scratching over here. Starting to see tweets popping up for this Wonder Festival Autumn, which is coming up rapidly in September. So I think people are, you know, starting to post the stuff that they're going to be selling because the licensing went through, or they're just excited to finally go to a festival. So that will be fun. I think TFO 4 is also happening somewhat soon. I'm also seeing tweets of that. And Volks had like an online hobby thing recently. Maybe, I'm not sure if it's happened yet or not, but they're starting to put their name in the game too and opening up sales through their website. It's like a portal. And you can buy certain license kits on there, depending on what the license is from. So I saw some Fate Ghost, Falzer Lane, the usual more open licensed things. So that's exciting to have them on one besides TFO or booth. Oops, sorry, not focusing again. Okay. Bit of a scratch here. I don't feel like I've bought that many kits recently. Part of it's just the festival, you know, lack of festivals happening. Now that EMS is back though, it's a little bit easier, but I'm finding that for certain things, because of that EMS price hike here in the US, DHL is slightly comparable, so not really getting much of a good deal. Either way, it's just as expensive to ship, whether it's EMS or DHL. It used to be EMS was pretty, like a little bit more expensive, but you get it quicker, it'd be cheaper. But now, if DHL is the same price and you get it in like 2 days, it makes sense to pay EMS whatsoever. So we'll have to see once it comes to like when I'm ordering more kits and stuff how that goes. But for PVC, I'm noticing that the price is about the same, and other proxy orders too. Kind of got the remaining bunch of stuff that I had ordered as PVC coming all in the next couple months. They're like orders that I put in a year and a half, 2 years ago, and stuff's finally starting to come out. So I have a beautiful Coco figure from Witch Hat Atelier from Quest Q that is coming out this month, and I got my payment request from Ami Ami, so I'm very excited. The one that I've been waiting on for quite a long time, and it looks very faithful to the original illustration. I'm quite excited. I really like Quest Q figures, both their garage kits and their PVC. I find that their final paint job is always pretty close to the prototype, and their sculpting is always really nice. So they take a long time to get their stuff out. Like this Coco, I think, was on order for like 2 years or something. COVID didn't help, but usually it takes them a long time. But every product I have from them I really like, so it's worth it. That one I'm excited for. Maybe when I get her, I'll show her on here so you guys can see some PVC. Okay. Kind of a big bubble here that I wanted to make sure that I filled in. This whole area though is like scratching, some remnants of bubble, etc. So it's a little bit annoying. It's just out with the 1200 grit. Where are we at? Over here. Okay. Oh yeah. Ah man, it's just so rough. It's all these seam lines. Really can't rush it though. The scratch there I don't like either. Let's see if I can get it with this. Taking my glove off because it's hard to get in there sometimes, these bulky gloves. Can't hold the piece the way that the angle I want. There we go, it's a little better. These bubbles too. Okay, let's fill that one in. Yeah, realistically, I think we'll probably finish the hair, and I'm going to finish the head today too. But the rest of the stuff we'll have to leave until tomorrow. And since we are streaming tomorrow, definitely not going to have time to work on this, so we'll just continue where we left off. Hopefully get through the rest. Okay. This one had more pieces but less problems, and then tomorrow's stream will have fewer pieces but more problems, so we'll have to spend a bit more time on each one. That's fine. The more the prep, the better prep we do, the fewer problems we're gonna have when we're painting. So You guys saw it with the made kit. It'll happen with this one too. Just gotta power through it. Make sure that everything is smooth. Okay, that one looks good. Keep going. There is some stuff happening here too. Just mostly textural. If I can't smooth that out. Oh yeah. Once you get that primer sanded, you really just see where it fills in on those scratches. If I can get some of that at a certain angle. A little better. There we go. Smooth now, so that's good. Not sure about this bit though. Oh yeah, that one is kind of scratched too. That's an easier area to reach though, so sand that down. That's pretty good. Okay. Really, it's this whole inner tendril that just kind of had the most issues. That one I'm gonna leave. I can see some micro bubbling, but primer will probably fill that in. And some scratching here. You have to stabilize your piece. Don't want to push too hard either on it because it is relatively delicate. Anything with like flowing hair bits that's not a solid mass like this, I'm always a little bit more hesitant about. Right now I'm smoothing this piece down. I'm buffing it down because I am seeing a lot of scratching on it, whether from the sculptor or me. It wasn't the kind that I could let sit. Okay. Definitely on this end tip, some micro bubbling and stuff, but I really don't think I can get much more than that for now. Or like I can, but I don't care. Okay. Seam line. And a lot of inner scratching. Which I'll give this a light sanding, and I'm not going to fill any of this in. I really don't see the point of that. Not on a kit that's personal and where I won't even see it. Okay. Okay, one. Starting to see less and less, which is a good sign. You know, when you're slowing down, that means you're getting to a point where you might be good. Feel this here, so. Oh yeah, bunch of little bubbles, but this is gonna be hard to. There we go. Have to go really slow. To drill these ones in. I just kind of felt the texture of these bubbles and I saw a tiny little bit of them, so it will be easier to put in putty and smooth them out now. Hold that up. Let's take another look at this head. The only thing that kind of icky is a Bondo line right by her ear. We'll have to sand that and see how it goes. Okay. Yep, that's nice and good. Just sand it down real quick. Oops. Okay. Do I have any more 800? Thought I had one more piece. Yep, one right here. Pretty good now. Might be a slight bubble or two there, but that covered up quite a few of them, so that's good. Okay, another look here. I don't know what this is focusing on, it's the worst. Can really see the two-tone difference here now that we're sanding everything down. I'm always surprised because I put on white primer and then I think, oh, it's not that white. And then you shave it all off, or you sand it down and you go, yeah, actually it was about as good as it's gonna get. Oh, there's a hole here. One more. Get that one, and I think that should be good for this piece. That's pretty good. Okay. Love this light curing stuff. Man, just the best. When I discovered it, first time I bought it, I just couldn't believe it, how quickly it dried, and it really changed how I built kits. Because before that I was using, I think, Tamiya basic putty, that like nasty gray one that no one is supposed to be using. And I was like, oh my god, it takes so long to dry, it shrinks. And then this tube is pretty expensive, but a little goes a long way, so for that price it's worth it. Literally one of those cases where like higher quality product is better buy. Okay. Alright, I think this piece is about good. Yeah. There's a little bits here and there, but nothing that is so bad that I'm going to change or take more time and sand it down. A little bit of scratching here, so maybe I'll just get that, and that'll be the last thing. Yeah, it's pretty good. It'll smooth out. Alright, so we'll do this, finish up this piece, and then we've got just the rest of the head tonight. So however long the head takes, shouldn't be too long. Any of the rest of these pieces, they're pretty bad quality, so they're gonna take a little time to fill in. There's gonna be kind of a lot of holes, so it's probably better we just reserve that for tomorrow. This head though, not too much going on here, thankfully. That's really what we want from a resin kit head, is not a lot of work to do on it. So just a few tiny seam lines I missed along the ear. Like I said, we filled in the neck area really well, so I'm not even gonna mess with that. Some minor smoothing here. And this was the problem right here. I'm also trying not to touch her face because I really don't want anything on that. And the face looks pretty smooth, so it was a kind of a weird piece of resin here, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was, but I can smooth down. Yeah, of course, as I do that, I wipe some of this off, so guess we are sanding the face down. I want to sculpt correct, but I don't like the position of, there's like a little extra bit of resin right along her eye. Very, very gentle here. Really don't want to be messing with that eye sculpt too much. Go. Okay. Good. There is a bubble here, so I did just want to get this. That popped right away. Okay. And right here. Micro bubbles. If I do a 1200, should smooth down the rest of those holes. Yeah. I think those were the only two spots on this head, so we'll fill those in and see from there. But I didn't notice anything else crazy that needed media attention on the head. And most of the bubbles that I did see were like right along the top of the crown of her head for whatever reason. Maybe that's like where the end of the mold was or something. Oh, that's weird. Okay, should be good. Alright, sand off some of this real quick. Okay, hold the head up. So the remaining pieces that we will tackle on Wednesday tomorrow are the big ones. So these three, these two boots, and her arms. So just kind of sets, like pairs. So this pair and then this pair and this pair and this rando. But all of these, for whatever reason, were not cast quite as well as the other stuff. And so the seam lines running along them were a little bit more intense than the rest of the pieces. And there was a lot of micro bubbling that happened and little bubbles that popped along those seam lines. So we did, you know, fill them in with Bondo and it got a lot of the holes, but some of the bigger ones we're still gonna have to drill out and fill in, and that's totally expected, to be honest. I did not expect a perfect prime job at the very beginning, so that's kind of whatever. That's also why we primed thin, because we're gonna be sanding all those down. Okay, see if I can hold the head this time. All right, just get these two at the top of her head filled in, sanded down, and they should be good for tonight. Very good progress though. We did finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces, so kind of a lot. They were smaller, but nearly, you know, way less time than when we started out on this kit and had to sand everything down. Probably gonna need a better sandpaper here shortly. Yeah, I'll do that now. This one's a little bit small. Let's see, any nubs in here? Nope. We're running short on nubs. We have this one, but I don't want to use something that has a red Bondo on it. Let me cut one real quick. I did bring my paper over. I had a feeling that this would happen, so. Okay. Got a whole bunch of new 800s. I'll just stick the rest in my cup and cut off a new piece. Now we can touch the face because we're not really depositing our oils from our hands onto it. Kind of an interesting spot. It's like along the top of her hair, so We want to keep the sculpt, but put off that extra junk. There we go. Kind of right along the middle of her hair though, so don't want to be hitting like her hairline here. You can see it kind of goes straight across. Okay. Although at some point I'm gonna have to sand the top of it. I've been trying to like avoid sanding the top because you don't want to sand down the hair either, but we'll have to go curve it just a little. There we go. That's pretty good. So that's filled in. You can see it didn't really change the hair sculpt at all. It will zoom in. So hair sculpt's still pretty much the same, but we do have that like yellow dot here, and then we want to make sure that we get that putty sanded down as well. This one's a little bit more flat on the head though, so easier to handle. I think the primer coat was a little bit thicker on the face. I kind of just went for it, so definitely have to smooth this out with a 1200. There we go. Also revealing a previous hole that I filled in. So that's interesting. Okay, moving it down. Really starting to see some of the roughness from the sculpt popping up in this prime job. The closer you look, the more textured it is. So yeah, only so much I can do here. Okay. And it did not put that thick of a coat on either, so a lot of this is just the head, I guess, the way it is. Alright, take this off and take one more look. See a little bit of that line, just a little bit here. But I'm not going to mess with this one little spot near her neck, then I'm not going to bother under the ear. Because who the heck's going to be looking at this kit under the ear? Not me. Don't really care that much. And this part, a little bit more. Move it down a tiny bit. Yeah, this is going to be a fun masking job. These ones are really, you got like one shot because you paint your face with the skin tone, and then you have to mask all of this off, and then make sure you get your hair right, otherwise you gotta paint everything all over again. Okay. Face I'm hesitant about because I did do a little bit of sanding on it. Should be able to level it out with the primer though. Okay, there's one spot here that's seam line that I thought Bondo was able to fit in or fill in, but nope. If that helps any at all. Okay, that. Alright, yeah, this looks pretty okay to me. We'll have to, you know, give it a second coat of primer and then see if any of those problems pop up again. don't think they should quite as badly as before, given we've sanded down things a little bit more and made it a little bit easier. Micro bubbling's kind of gone at this point that I can see, but you never know. Sometimes if you need to like wipe a piece with lacquer and then you prime it again, even more holes pop up for whatever reason. So I don't know if it's like eating into the resin or what, but that happens to me sometimes. It like reveals hidden bubbles. But for now I don't see any bubbles, so I'm gonna put this piece up and that will pretty much conclude tonight. So we got through kind of a lot of pieces, all of the hair, you know, her torso, pretty much all the head and hair accessories. So next time, which will be tomorrow, we're just gonna keep this train rolling. So we were delayed to today, but tomorrow is the regular time. We'll be finishing more of these, you know, sanding them down, making sure they're ready. Then probably priming again. So I don't know if all this will take the time. Honestly, it might take the rest of the time, but if not, I'll switch my booth, or I'll switch the camera over to the booth, and then we can get the second coat of primer on these. And then if the hair is good, we'll need to be puttying and gluing that hair together before we paint. So that will be some additional prep to do. So still a bunch of stuff to do in terms of getting this kit ready, but we're getting closer to getting spoons and then, you know, starting the paint job. But paint job will be pretty easy, you know, because you've got like, these are one color, these are one color, this is one color, skin is one color, so no masking needed, just a bunch of like solid colors and cool shading and stuff. So in any case, thank you guys for sticking around and tuning in, even though this was on an off day. Next stream is tomorrow, 28th, so appreciate it. Appreciate you guys viewing and tuning in. Same time as usual, we'll be continuing the sanding and getting stuff ready and maybe priming, but probably not. So I hope you guys all have a good rest of the night or day or morning, wherever you're at, and I will talk to you hopefully soon. Bye bye.